Hello. When I woke up, the air conditioner was still running, but the sheets next to me were warm. Not in the way you'd expect from someone recently asleep, more like warmth from someone's body lingering for hours. I stared at the ceiling for a solid 10 minutes before I checked my phone. 4:47 a.m. No texts, no missed calls, no sign of Marla. I have no idea what time she left the bar. I don't know who she left with, but I know she didn't come back. I also know she blocked me on Instagram after midnight. I found out because I tried looking at her story, and it said, no posts yet. That's not nothing. That's not by accident. That's a choice you make when you don't want your husband watching. And it gets worse. Her car's not in the driveway. She told me she was taking an Uber to the party, so either she drove herself home after getting drunk, or someone else drove her somewhere. There's a voicemail from 12:52 a.m. I haven't listened to it yet. I've been staring at my phone for half an hour, trying to get the courage. My finger hovers over the play button, but my mind is full of sounds. Not real ones, but like audio hallucinations. Her laugh, echoing in my head, almost mocking me. Or maybe it's guilt. Then the cat knocked over the bowl of food I left out yesterday. It startled me so much I almost dropped my phone. I haven't eaten. I haven't had water. I haven't even gotten up to pee. I'm just here, in our bedroom, still wearing the same shirt I wore yesterday, trying to understand how we got here. The worst part? We didn't even fight. She kissed me on the cheek before she left, said, "Don't wait up. Jace turns 30. Apparently, that means absinthe and ska music. I laughed. We laughed. It felt fine. Normal. That's the most disturbing part. But if it was so normal, why did she take her overnight bag? Why was her old college hoodie, the one she only wears when she's hungover or upset, missing from the back of the closet? And why did I find one of her earrings on the floor in the hallway, bent backward as if it had been yanked off in a hurry? I'm not writing this for advice. I'm writing because I'm scared of what I'll find if I go searching for her. But I think I might have to, because the voicemail is still there, and something inside me tells me it's not her voice on it. And I finally press play. I don't know what I expected. Maybe slurred words, laughter in the background, some vague apology. Instead, there was silence. Not the usual kind, but a mechanical hum, like someone had their phone inside a running car. Then came the sound of shuffling, fabric rubbing against leather, maybe a bag being thrown onto a seat. Her voice came through a few seconds later, but it wasn't directed at me. She wasn't leaving a message. She didn't even know she was recording. She was whispering. I couldn't catch every word, but I heard this clearly. "No." I told him I was at Claire's. "Stop freaking out. He doesn't suspect anything." A pause. Then laughter. Someone else's voice. A man's. Too muffled to identify. Then Marlo again. "He's harmless. He just overthinks everything. He won't do anything. He never does." That last line hit me like cold water. I don't think I moved for a full minute after the recording ended. My hands went numb. It wasn't the cheating. At least, not yet. It was the way she said it. Like I was pathetic. Like she knew I'd sit here in this room and do nothing while she disappeared into the night. And the worst part is, she was right. I am the guy who doesn't act. I analyze, I spiral, I obsess, but I never confront. I just absorb everything until it consumes me from the inside. I couldn't sleep after that. The sun came up, casting a yellow-orange light through the room like it always does. But it felt like I was in a fake version of our house. Her scent was still on the pillow. Her toothbrush was gone. One drawer in her dresser was half open, and I noticed a few things missing. Her yoga pants, her favorite sleep shirt, the one with the faded cartoon ducks. Not something you'd pack for a one-night birthday bash. At 7:30 a.m., I got a text from her. Just one line. "I'm okay. Please don't make this into a thing." No location. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. I typed 50 different replies and deleted every single one. I didn't trust myself to respond without sounding pathetic or angry or both. Instead, I went to the kitchen to make coffee and saw that her favorite mug, the one with the cracked handle that she never lets me throw away, was sitting in the sink. That meant she'd been home at some point. While I slept, maybe just for a minute, long enough to shower, to change clothes, or maybe someone else came here instead. I noticed something strange then. The front door wasn't fully closed. It was barely ajar, like it hadn't latched properly. On the floor just inside the entryway, next to the umbrella stand, was a receipt, slightly damp, curled at the edges. It was from a gas station 38 miles away. Time-stamped, 2:11 a.m. Paid in cash. I checked the back of her car in the driveway. Nothing looked disturbed. Then I realized she didn't take her car, which meant someone else drove her there, someone who paid in cash, someone who made sure the door didn't fully close. I don't know what's going on, but I'm done pretending it's fine. If she's not cheating, she's hiding something much bigger, something I think I wasn't supposed to find out. And as much as I hate confrontation, I'm not staying quiet anymore, because a few minutes ago, I tried calling her again. This time, her number was disconnected. I didn't even get dressed properly. I threw a hoodie over my t-shirt, slipped into half-lace sneakers, and drove to the gas station listed on the receipt. 38 miles out, an hour with traffic. The entire ride, my brain bounced between outrage and dread. I tried convincing myself there was some explanation, something innocent, something stupid that would make me feel ridiculous for doubting her. But as I drove further from home, the more I realized that I wasn't seeking peace of mind. I was searching for proof. I already knew the truth. I just needed to witness it. The gas station turned out to be smaller than I thought. Dusty windows, a single pump island, and an ice cooler humming in the corner, looking like it hadn't been cleaned in ages. The guy behind the counter couldn't have been older than 19. Bleached blonde hair, a septum piercing, and a face that screamed, "I hate this job with every ounce of my being." I approached the counter, receipt in hand, trying my best not to look like I hadn't slept in over 30 hours. "Hey," I began, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I bought something here last night, or someone I know did. I was wondering if you have security cameras." He didn't even look up, just muttered, "Back wall. It records for 2 days, then loops." I asked if I could see the footage from 2:11 a.m. He stared at me for a moment too long before sighing and sliding off his stool. He led me through a door behind the counter into a room full of cardboard boxes and the musty scent of leaking coolant. There was an old CRT monitor in the corner, already buzzing with grainy footage. He skipped through it, fast-forwarding until the timestamp hit 2:09. "There," I said, leaning forward. A dark SUV pulled into the far-right pump. It was too far to get the plate number. The driver stayed inside the car. A figure got out of the passenger side. Tall, slim, wearing a hoodie, no obvious identifiers. The person walked quickly, head down, never once facing the camera. But I knew how they moved. I could recognize the slight hunch in their shoulders. The way they tucked their hair behind their ear as they approached the store. It was her. She stepped into the frame, grabbed a bottle of water and 2 granola bars, paid with cash. Never looked at the cashier, never spoke a word. When she left, the SUV sped off so fast, it almost hit the curb. That was it. No crime. No confrontation. Just a 25-second clip of my wife trying not to be seen. I sat in the car for a long time afterward, parked in the far corner of the lot, engine still running. I wanted to scream, punch the steering wheel, call her, and demand answers. But I couldn't. Her number was still disconnected. She was still gone. The person driving that SUV wasn't visible in the footage, but somehow I knew it wasn't Jace. Or at least, not just Jace. When I got home, the front door was unlocked again. Inside, everything looked the same. Almost. Her coffee mug was gone from the sink. The towel she usually left crumpled on the bathroom floor was now neatly folded on the rail. Someone had been in the house. But not to steal, not to destroy, to cover their tracks. And there, on the kitchen counter, was a note. One of our sticky pads. For words scrawled in hurried, jagged handwriting. "Don't talk to Claire." No punctuation. No name. Just that. Claire. The friend she always used as an excuse. The ghost friend. The fallback. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't even know if Claire exists. But I know whoever left that note had access to our house. Had enough time to clean up. Had the audacity to come back. Knowing I was looking. I feel like I'm already too deep in something I never agreed to. And something tells me this isn't about cheating anymore. It feels like I'm being watched. I didn't sleep that night. Not even the fake kind of sleep where your eyes are shut, but your brain is still running. I sat on the living room couch, a blanket draped over my shoulders like a forgotten patient in a psychiatric ward, watching the front door, as if it might confess something. I kept thinking about the note. "Don't talk to Claire." The handwriting had been rushed. Sharp. Almost angry. Not my wife's usual curvy loops. Not the soft lowercase, she always drew like a little balloon. Whoever wrote that note didn't want to help. They wanted to warn me. I scoured through every text, email, and calendar event that mentioned Claire. But there were hardly any. Just vague mentions here and there. At Claire's tonight. Brunch with Claire. No phone number. No photos. Not a single post on social media that connected them. I even checked my wife's old photos. Nothing. Like Claire was a figment of imagination, created for convenience. I started feeling stupid for not noticing it earlier. Around 5 a.m., I heard a faint tapping, barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator. I thought it might be the cat, but Maple was curled up fast asleep beside me, a little cinnamon roll of fur. I slowly got up and followed the sound to the back door. It stopped as soon as I reached it. Through the narrow window beside the door, I saw someone standing at the fence. It was still dark outside, not yet sunrise, but I could make out the shape. A woman, standing completely still, facing the house. She wasn't moving, not pacing, just watching. She was maybe 5.5 feet tall, wearing a long dark coat, something bulky in her arms. I couldn't make out her face. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just stood there, trying to blink away the image as if it was some dream residue clinging to my eyes. After nearly 30 seconds, she turned and walked away. Not in a hurry, not trying to hide. She just walked along the fence until she disappeared behind the neighbor's shed. I waited until daylight to go outside. When I finally stepped onto the damp patio, the cold hit me like a slap. Sharp and unwelcome. The grass was wet. Dew. Or maybe something else. I approached the fence, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. And there, on the other side, tucked between two warped wooden planks, was another note. Folded in half. No envelope. Inside, "You weren't supposed to be home." This one was written in Marla's handwriting. I'd stake my life on it. The gentle rounded letters, the casual lowercase y, looped at the bottom like a ribbon. I ran my thumb over the ink, half expecting it to smudge. It didn't. She had been here. Not only had she been home, but she also thought I'd be gone. She expected me to be somewhere else. But where? Work? With family? At some event she never told me about? I went back inside and locked every door and window. I even put a chair under the back door handle like they do in movies. The sun was up now. Everything looked normal again. Boring. Deceitfully safe. But my stomach wouldn't stop knotting tighter. I decided to break my own rule and go through her laptop. It wasn't easy. Marla was obsessive about her passwords. But I remembered something she told me once, years ago. She said she always used the name of the first band she ever saw live, followed by her graduation year. After 3 wrong guesses, I typed in Funeral Lights 2009. The screen unlocked. There wasn't much on the desktop, just some work folders and recipe PDFs. But in her downloads folder was a zip file she'd renamed with a date, July 14th meeting. Zip. I extracted it. Inside were 6 audio recordings. No titles, just timestamps. I clicked the first one. It was a conversation. Muffled but intense. Marla's voice came through, but she sounded scared. Urgent. "We shouldn't be recording this," she said. Then a man's voice, low, steady, and emotionless, replied, "It's not for us. It's for him. In case something happens." I stopped the recording. I don't know who him is. I don't know what something is. But I'm pretty sure I wasn't meant to hear that. I'm also pretty sure I'm not alone in this house anymore. I didn't listen to the rest of the recordings that day. I couldn't. There was something in Marla's voice in that first file that made me feel like I was eavesdropping on a version of her I'd never met. A version that didn't sound like my wife. She didn't sound angry or scared in the dramatic TV show way. She sounded prepared, like she'd already rehearsed what to say if she got caught. And the man she was speaking to, his voice had no identity, like it wasn't meant to be remembered. Instead, I sat on the kitchen floor, my back against the fridge, knees pulled up to my chest, like I was waiting for a bomb to go off. I must have stayed there for over an hour. The hum of the refrigerator was the only thing anchoring me to reality. At some point, Maple came trotting in, meowing at the pantry door. I thought maybe he just wanted food, but his tail was puffed up, his back arched slightly. He wasn't begging. He was on alert. I opened the pantry, expecting maybe a trapped mouse or something ridiculous like that, but it was empty. Except, at the very back, behind the stacked rice bags and cereal boxes, was the crawlspace panel. Now, let me be clear, I hate that crawlspace. Always have. It runs under the entire back half of the house. Dark, tight, full of cobwebs, and God knows what else. It's the kind of place you imagine bad things hiding. I never go in there unless it's absolutely necessary, and Marla hated it just as much. We once joked that if anything ever went wrong down there, we'd just sell the house instead of fixing it. So I stood there for a while, hand resting on the corner of the panel, trying to convince myself the cat was just being weird. But then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of something shifting underneath the floorboards. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Just the subtle heavy drag of something, or someone, moving below the house. I didn't open the panel. I couldn't. I slammed the pantry door shut and backed out of the kitchen like a coward. My heart was pounding, and for a second, I thought I might throw up. The sound had stopped, but now the silence felt heavier than any noise. I walked to the bedroom and grabbed the small crowbar we kept in the closet, just in case, even though neither of us had ever defined what that case would be. I returned to the pantry and opened the door slowly, as if the crawl space might lunge out at me. The panel was slightly ajar now. It hadn't been like that before. I was certain. The bottom corner had been flush with the floor when I first saw it. Now, there was just enough of a gap to let air escape. And the air? It was cold. Not basement cool. Refrigerated. Like something had been hiding down there for a long, long time. I should have called the cops, or the neighbors, or literally anyone. Instead, I pried open the panel. A wave of rot-scented air hit me, like mildew and metal, and something vaguely biological. I pointed my flashlight down into the hole. The beam caught nothing but dust particles for a second. Then it landed on something strange. A shoe. Just one. Marla's. The burgundy flat she always kicked off first when she came home from work. It was sitting on its side in the dirt. Clean. Too clean. Like someone had just placed it there. I dropped the flashlight. It tumbled and bounced once, then landed beam up, casting everything into sharp, angular shadows. That's when I saw the hand. Not a real one. Not skin and bone. But a drawing. A chalk outline on the wooden beam just above the entrance. Small, child-sized, etched with jagged fingers and a crooked palm. Surrounding it were more of them. Dozens of little hands drawn in red, black, and green. I didn't go in. I sealed the panel again and shoved the refrigerator in front of the pantry door. It made an awful scraping sound, but I didn't care. I pushed until it couldn't move anymore. Then I sat against the wall and stared at it like it was going to bleed through. Later that night, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Not loud, not threatening, just slow, measured, as if whoever it was didn't want to wake me, or maybe wanted me to think I was just dreaming. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just waited. Eventually, the sound stopped outside the bedroom door. I stared at the handle, expecting it to turn, expecting something to finally reveal itself. But nothing happened. The next morning, the sticky note on the counter was gone. So was Maple. I didn't call the police. I couldn't. How do you explain to someone in uniform that your cat disappeared after footsteps whispered down your hallway, and there's a hidden chalk gallery of child-sized handprints beneath your pantry? I tried rehearsing it in my head. My wife's missing. Someone warned me not to talk to her fake friend. And now something's moving under the house. But I couldn't get past the first sentence without sounding like I was losing it. So, I did the one thing I said I wouldn't do. I tried to find Claire. It felt like the only move left. If Claire was real, and that was a monumental if, then maybe she could tell me what Marla was running from. Or toward. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe a cryptic confession. Maybe she'd slip and reveal that she and Marla were involved in something illegal or cult-like, or just wrong. I even let myself imagine a moment where she broke down crying and said, "I'm sorry." I didn't expect to find Claire on the first try. I started simple. Marla had once mentioned that Claire used to work at a place called Garden Trace Design, a boutique landscaping studio 2 towns over. I Googled the name, and to my surprise, their website still listed a Claire Henwick as their former creative lead. There was even a headshot. Early 30s. Sharp brown eyes. Shoulder-length hair dyed the color of rusted copper. Something about her expression, half smile, one eyebrow slightly raised, made it look like she was daring you to challenge her version of the truth. I called the company. A man answered. He sounded distracted, like he was eating or typing or both. I asked if Claire was still working there. After a brief pause, he told me she quit 2 years ago. No forwarding info. No social media that he knew of. But she still came by sometimes, he said, to visit the greenhouse out back. If you're trying to reach her, he added with a yawn, she lives in that house with the overgrown trellis off Harbor Lane. You can't miss it. Feels like the yard's swallowing the place. So I went. Harbor Lane was a narrow road flanked by pine trees and moss-heavy wires. Most of the homes were modest, some neglected, some overly curated to make up for it. But when I turned the corner and saw the trellis house, I knew exactly which one was hers. It looked like it had once been beautiful, but something had turned inward. The vines were thick, too thick, like veins under skin, creeping over the windows and roofline, as if trying to smother the house completely. The grass had grown past my knees. The wind chimes by the porch had long since tangled themselves into silence. I parked across the street and sat for 5 full minutes before getting out. The front door wasn't locked. That should have been the first warning. I knocked. No answer. Knocked again. Nothing. But then I heard movement. A soft dragging sound, like fabric being pulled across wood. I took a step back, unsure if I was trespassing or rescuing someone. The door creaked open 2 inches, just enough to reveal the shape of someone standing in the dark hallway beyond. "Claire," I said. No answer. Just breathing. Shallow. Intentional. "I'm Marla's husband." She's missing. "You're the only name she's given me." Still nothing. The door opened wider, and there she was. She looked exactly like the photo, but thinner. Paler. Like sunlight hadn't touched her skin in weeks. Her eyes were alert but unfocused, like she was watching something behind me instead of me directly. "She told you not to come here," Claire said flatly. I didn't have a choice. Claire blinked slowly, then stepped aside to let me in. The air inside her house was heavy with the scent of burnt sage and citrus rot. The walls were covered in black and white photographs, all hung at crooked angles, none of them labeled. I recognized Marla in 2 of them, both from behind. In one, she was standing in the center of a forest clearing, her hands stretched outward like she was surrendering to something above the trees. In the other, she was staring at a mirror that reflected everything in the room except her. Claire led me to a small sitting room. She didn't speak again until she closed the door behind us and turned on a small desk lamp. The light buzzed and flickered once before staying on. She thought she could keep it separate, Claire said. That she could have her old life and this one too. But it never works like that. Something always bleeds through. I asked what she was talking about. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she handed me a small black envelope sealed with wax. I turned it over. My name was written on it in Marla's handwriting. "I wasn't supposed to give you this until the 3rd day," Claire said. "But you're ahead of schedule, which means it's already following you." My mouth went dry. "What is?" Claire just looked at the envelope and said, "You'll understand once you read that. But don't open it here, and don't wait too long. After the 4th day, it doesn't matter anymore." I left without saying goodbye. I didn't want to turn my back to her. As I drove home, I kept the envelope on the passenger seat, glancing at it like it might twitch or disappear. I didn't open it that night. Not yet. Not because I wasn't curious, but because a part of me believed, really believed, that the moment I broke that seal, everything would change. And I wasn't sure I was ready for what I'd been married to all these years. I didn't sleep the night I came back from Claire's. I lay in bed with the envelope on my chest like it weighed 50 pounds. I couldn't bring myself to break the seal. Something about it felt too final. Like once I opened it, there'd be no going back. For hours, I just stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster, listening for movement in the house. I didn't hear footsteps that night. I didn't hear anything. And somehow, that was worse. Around 4 a.m., I got up and turned on every light in the house. I brewed coffee I never drank. I cleaned the kitchen counters. I fed Maple's bowl, even though he was still missing. Anything to delay what I already knew I was going to do. The envelope sat untouched on the dining table, its black wax seal gleaming faintly under the overhead light. It looked ancient, like something meant to be found in a locked box in an attic, not casually slid across a dusty table by a woman who smelled like cold earth and burning orange peels. When I finally opened it, my hands were shaking, not from fear exactly, but from a kind of grief I couldn't name. Inside was a single sheet of heavy cream-colored paper. No letterhead, no date. Just Marla's handwriting, perfectly neat and terrifyingly calm. If you're reading this, then I didn't come back. That means something has gone wrong, or I've decided I can't return. Either way, you need to understand that this isn't your fault. None of it ever was. I loved you. I still do, if that matters. But I was never fully mine to give. There are parts of me I never told you about. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I didn't understand them myself until it was too late. The next line was scribbled more quickly, as if she had written it in one breath. You remember the apartment we lived in before this house? The one with the attic you were too tall to stand in? Check under the floorboard beneath the east-facing window. You'll find the rest there. That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. Just an address to a forgotten part of our past, somewhere I hadn't thought about in years. We lived in that apartment for less than 8 months. It was tiny, cramped, and full of mice, but it was the first place we ever called ours. I hadn't been back since we moved out. I didn't even know if the building was still standing, but of course, I went. The drive there felt like a trip into another life. I remembered the cracked driveway, the chipped red paint on the stair rails, the smell of baked asphalt, and distant curry that always lingered in the hallway. I stood in front of our old unit for a long time before knocking. A man answered, older, polite, wearing a bathrobe and socks. I told him the truth, or at least a softened version, that my wife and I used to live there, that I thought we may have left something behind, that it might be under the floor. I expected him to say no, to slam the door, or call the police. Instead, he nodded and said, "You're not the first one who's come back looking for something." He let me in. The apartment was smaller than I remembered. I could barely stretch my arms without touching both walls. The attic hatch was still there, just above the laundry closet. He handed me a flashlight and a small flathead screwdriver. I climbed up alone. The attic was just as low-ceilinged and claustrophobic as I remembered. Dust bloomed in every corner. The insulation was thin and torn. I crawled toward the east-facing window, the morning light barely cutting through the grime on the glass. I tapped the floorboards. One of them sounded hollow. I pried it loose. Inside was a small tin box, sealed shut with rusted hinges. I forced it open with the screwdriver. Inside were 3 things: a VHS tape, a Polaroid photograph, and a folded napkin with something scribbled on it in what looked like lipstick. The photo was of Marla, but not as I knew her. She was younger, late teens maybe. She was standing in a circle of people, all wearing identical dark coats, all holding candles. The background was wooded, rural. One of the people beside her had their face entirely blacked out with ink. The lipstick message on the napkin read, "She doesn't know who she is when it starts again, but she'll find you. She always does." My mouth went dry. The VHS tape had a single word written on it in black marker. Before. I left the box exactly as I found it, closed the floorboard, and thanked the man downstairs. He didn't ask what I found. He didn't even look at me. Just turned the TV back on and waved a silent goodbye. Back home, I dug my old player out of the closet and connected it to the basement TV. I popped the tape in and pressed play. The screen flickered to static, then cut to a handheld recording, shaky and low-res. It showed a room full of people in chairs, facing away from the camera. One by one, they turned toward it. Each time, the person's face was replaced with a blur, like it had been manually erased or smeared by hand frame by frame, until the last one. Marla. She turned slowly, looked right into the lens, and smiled. But it wasn't her smile. It wasn't human. And just before the tape cut to black, she whispered something I'll never forget. "You're not watching this in time." I didn't move for a long time after the tape ended. The basement light flickered once, then steadied, and I just sat there in the darkness, staring at the empty screen like it owed me more. Like maybe if I rewound it again, I'd catch something I missed. A detail in the background, a reflection, anything. But no, the tape ended exactly the same every time. Her face, that voice, and the final line. "You're not watching this in time." I stayed up the rest of the night thinking about what it meant. Not just the message, but everything. The footprints, the crawlspace, the envelope, Claire, the attic, the box. All of it felt like puzzle pieces from different boxes, forced together by someone who didn't have time to explain the picture. But something about the message lingered in my mind. Not the words, but the way she said them. Not angry, not cryptic. Sad. Like she wished I had found it all sooner. Like maybe she had been trying to protect me the entire time. The next morning, I went back to Claire's house. I didn't call first. I just drove straight there, heart pounding. I needed answers. But when I got there, the house was empty. More than that, abandoned. The vines were dead, the windows were shattered, and the furniture was gone. It looked like no one had lived there in years. I checked property records later that day. The last recorded resident at that address was someone named Eleanor Gray. She died in 1998. Bye-bye.